Hey guys, and welcome back. Today I have all the fall cozy Halloween vibes for you. Did you hear the music? Today we are going to learn how to crochet each of the 4 Halloween character faces. And that's all we're talking about in this video today. This is part 2 of the Halloween trick-or-treat bag tutorial. So if you're looking for part 1, that is the video where I showed you how to crochet the actual bag, the drawstring, and the backpack strap. So head over to that video first and then come back to this video to learn how to crochet each of the faces. Now let's cover the materials for today. For all of these bags, I used Red Heart Super Saver, and that is a medium weight yarn. So you can use that yarn, which I totally recommend, or you can use any medium weight yarn that you have on hand. I also used a 5.5mm crochet hook for most of the facial features, and for some of the features on the witch bag, I decided to use a 5mm hook instead. If you don't have a 5mm hook, a 5.5mm should work just fine. And one quick note on the witch bag. All of these bags are completely beginner friendly, but I will say that the witch bag is a little bit trickier than the others. Especially using a black yarn, it is a bit harder to see your stitches and to see where you're supposed to go. But in the video, I did try my best to show you exactly where I was working. But if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments and I'll be sure to answer them. In the last video, we learned how to crochet the actual bag, and today we are going to talk about how to create each of the character faces. So if you're not creating all 4 bags, then I will leave timestamps on the screen where you can find the bag that you're working on. All right, without further delay, let's crochet.
Sigourney, how's your macaroni?
I'm really excited about today's video because I originally designed these bags, or 3 out of 4 of the bags, back in 2017 when my son was 3 years old and now he's 7. So it's been really fun to create them again and hopefully bring them some more love. And just because they're called trick-or-treat candy bags doesn't mean that you have to use them for candy or trick-or-treating. When my son was 3 and I first made these, he loved to carry around all of his toy cars. So this could be used as a toy bag, an overnight bag, or really anything that you can think of. If you're making all 4 bags, you will need green, orange, white, black, and gray. And I will leave links in the description box with all of the yarn I used for this project. Now we're going to be working on the facial features for the pumpkin bag. First, we'll start with the eyes. So with your black yarn and your 5.5mm hook, create a slip knot and chain 10. Now half double crochet in the second chain from your hook and each chain down. So remember that a half double crochet is a half treble in the UK. Now for row 2, chain 1 and turn your work. And we're going to half double crochet 2 together in the first 2 stitches. So to do that, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook into the first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and you'll have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over again and insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and you'll have 5 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all 5 loops. And I know again that I'm using a black yarn, but hopefully those instructions helped. Now place 1 half double crochet into each of the next 5 stitches. Now we'll have 2 stitches left. So again, we're going to half double crochet 2 together in those last 2 stitches. So yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, you'll have 3 loops, yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, you'll have 5 loops, yarn over, pull through all 5 loops. For row 3, chain 1, half double crochet 2 together in the first 2 stitches, 1 half double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches, and half double crochet 2 together in the last 2 stitches. For row 4, chain 1, and again half double crochet 2 together in the first 2 stitches, 1 half double crochet into the next stitch, and half double crochet 2 together in the last 2 stitches. For row 5, chain 1, and just half double crochet in each stitch across. You should have 3 stitches in this row. For row 6, chain 1, turn your work, half double crochet 2 together in the first 2 stitches, and then half double crochet into the last stitch. Chain 1, turn your work, and then single crochet 2 together for this last row. So you'll insert your hook into the first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. And that's it for your pumpkin eye. So yarn over, cut your yarn, leaving a long tail for sewing, and pull that strand all the way through. You will need to make 2 of these eyes. Next, we're going to make the pumpkin mouth. So with our black yarn and a 5.5mm crochet hook, we're going to create a slip knot and chain 26. Now double crochet into the 3rd chain from your hook, 1, 2, 3. And each chain down. For row 2, chain 2, and double crochet into the first stitch and each stitch down the row. You should have 24 stitches. For row 3, chain 2 and turn your work. Now double crochet 2 together in the first 2 stitches. So you'll yarn over, insert your hook into the first stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Now yarn over and insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, you'll have 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the last 3 loops, and that's a double crochet 2 together. Now place 1 double crochet into each of the next 20 stitches. You should have 2 stitches left on your row, and we're going to double crochet 2 together in these last 2 stitches. So yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 3. And that's your double crochet 2 together. Now for row 4, we're going to chain 2, turn your work, and again, double crochet 2 together in the first 2 stitches. Now double crochet into each of the next 18 stitches. You should have 2 stitches left in this row, and then double crochet 2 together in those last 2 stitches. For row 5, chain 2 and turn your work, and again double crochet 2 together in those first 2 stitches, double crochet into each of the next 16 stitches. You should have 2 stitches left in your row, double crochet 2 together in those last 2 stitches. All right, and there you have your pumpkin mouth. Now just tie off your work and make sure you leave an extra long tail for this one so we can sew it to our bag later. Then yarn over and pull the strand all the way through. And you only need one mouth. Next we'll make the teeth. So with your orange yarn and a 5.5 millimeter hook, create a slip knot and chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now single crochet into the second chain and each of the next 3 chains. Now for rows 2 through 4, we're just going to chain 1, turn your work, and single crochet in each stitch across. Now go ahead and cut a long tail to sew, yarn over, and pull that strand all the way through. And you will need to make 3 of these teeth. Now for the pumpkin eyes, the top of the eye is here at the point where we tied off our yarn. So go ahead and grab your tapestry needle, and we are going to sew the eyes right below the 4th row from the top. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you want, you can use stitch markers or you can use pins to hold them in place as you sew them on. But I'm just going to line it up and see how it looks. That looks okay. We are on the 5th row. That's where the top of the eye starts. And I've placed them about 9 stitches in between this top row. Now to sew, I'm going to turn the bag sideways and insert my hook through the bag. We're just going to go back and forth through the bag and out the other side. And I'm just going to feel it as I go. And if you don't like the way it's looking, you can just take everything out and try again. Just make sure that you're not going all the way through the back of the bag. And if you didn't cut enough yarn for your tail, weave in the rest of the end that you have and grab another piece of black yarn and just continue sewing. Now that you're finished, just weave in your ends and cut your yarn. Now I'm going to repeat the same process for my other eye. Before you weave in your ends at the end and cut your yarn, make sure that you like the placement. If you don't like the placement, just go back and pull out your stitches and redo it. And there you have the pumpkin eyes. Now let's sew on the mouth. So our mouth is going to be 2 rows below your eyes. So I'm going to sew mine on right here. I'm going to turn it sideways again. And as you go, just make sure that you are still lined up because I didn't do that with my eye, and that's why it's a little off. Try to have fun with these bags and not worry about being absolutely perfect. All right, now for the teeth, we're going to sew them directly on top of the mouth. Now, where you decide to put them is completely up to you. So here are a few options. Now, whenever you sew the teeth to the top of the mouth, I like to do a whip stitch. So I'm making sure to go through the orange part of the bag. That way it looks like the tooth is kind of attached to the bag, if that makes sense. And then for the rest of it, I will just go up and down. So through the back of the bag and back down through the bag. There you have it. So this tooth is all sewn on, and I'm just going to repeat the same process for these 2 teeth. Now, moving on to the Jack Skellington bag, we worked the main body of the bag the same way as we did the pumpkin. We just used black yarn. So let's move on to Jack's head. Holding 2 strands of white yarn And using a 5.5mm hook, we are going to create a magic circle and chain 2. Now place 10 double crochet into the magic circle. Pull tight to close, and slip stitch to the first double crochet of the round, and chain 2. Now place 2 double crochet in each stitch around. Now slip stitch to the first double crochet of the round, and chain 2 for round 3. For round 3, place 2 double crochet into that very first stitch, and then 1 double crochet into the next. 2 double crochet into the next stitch, and 1 double crochet into the next. And just repeat that pattern around. Slip stitch to the first double crochet of the round, and for round 4, chain 2, place 2 double crochet into the very first stitch, and 1 double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. 2 double crochet into the next stitch, and 1 double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, and repeat that pattern around. Slip stitch to the first double crochet of the round, and for the 5th and final round we're going to chain 2, place 2 double crochet into that very first stitch, and then place 1 double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. 2 double crochet into the next, and 1 double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches, and repeat that pattern around. Slip stitch to the first double crochet of the round, and make sure that you leave a very long tail so that you can sew the head to your bag later. Yarn over and pull that strand all the way through. And you only need to make one of these heads. Next, we're going to make Jack's eye. So with black yarn, we're going to create a magic circle, chain 1, and place 5 half double crochet into the magic circle. And remember that I'm speaking in US terms, so a half double crochet in the US is a half treble in the UK. So yarn over, insert your hook into the circle, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. If you can't create a magic circle, go ahead and chain 2 and place 5 half double crochet into the second chain from your hook. And 5. Pull your work tight to close. And instead of slip stitching, we're going to chain 1 and turn your work. Place 2 half double crochet into each stitch across. You should have 10 stitches in this round. Now chain 1 and turn your work back around and place 2 half double crochet into the first stitch, and then 1 half double crochet into the next. 2 double crochet into the next stitch, and 1 half double crochet into the next, and just repeat that to the last stitch. Now leave a long tail for sewing, yarn over and pull that strand all the way through, and make sure that your magic circle strand is tight as well. And you will need to make 2 of these eyes. So as you can see here, I sewed the eyes directly onto the head before placing it onto the backpack. Sewing on the eyes is a little bit tricky because you want it to slant here in the middle. So you might want to use some stitch markers or something that will help you hold these in place as you sew them on. But if you don't like the way it's positioned, just take it all out and redo it. I had to do that a couple times. And then for the nose, you'll just use your tapestry needle to weave in a little nose here. Now for the mouth, I wanted to explain that a little bit more. What we're going to do is weave in our smile right between the 4th and the 5th row. So to start, I'm going to do it right here. So this is about 2 stitches below the eye. So insert your hook from the back, and then I'm going to skip 2 stitches here and insert back down. Now, so my yarn doesn't come out, I'm going to just weave it in a little bit back here. So just going through 1 stitch, and I know that all these strands look really crazy, but this is so that whenever you go back into the same space, it's not going to pull your yarn out. So now we can go back into that same space, and we're going to pull it back up. And then we're going to skip 2 stitches again and insert our needle into that space. Now flip it over again and weave it into the back of that stitch there, and then put your hook through the same space that you came in. And we're just going to repeat this process until we reach the other side. And I'm going to skip these next 3 stitches because on this side we have 2 stitches below the eye and I want it to be the same on this side. So I'm skipping 3 just to make sure that the mouth is nice and even. And so there you have Jack's mouth. Now he has little slits in here. So I'm just going to go back through and create the slits in whichever way you want. It doesn't have to be spaced perfectly. But make sure that when you're doing this, that you go through the actual stitch and not between the posts, because if you go between the post, it's not going to stay, it's going to move around. So I'll put another one here, and I'm going right through the center of the stitch. And see here I went through the center of the stitch, so if I kept that, it moves easily back and forth. And there you have it. Now just weave in your end in the back and you're all done. Now whenever you go to sew the head to the bag, make sure that you sew it underneath the 4th row from the top. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is where I would sew his head. And again, if you want, you can use stitch markers to make sure it stays in place. Now, the Frankenstein bag was created the same way that I showed you with the pumpkin bag, except this time we started with green up until round 18. Then for rounds 19, 20, and 21, we switched to black yarn. So now let's talk about the facial features for Mr. Frankenstein. We're going to grab our white yarn. First, we're going to create a magic circle. Now chain 2 and place 8 double crochet into the magic circle. And if you don't know how to create a magic circle yet, go ahead and chain 3 and place 8 double crochet into that 3rd chain from your hook. All right, now we have our 8 double crochet into our magic circle. Now pull tight to close and slip stitch to that very first double crochet of the round. Now chain 2 and place 2 double crochet in each stitch around. At the end of round 2, slip stitch to that very first double crochet and then chain 2 and place 2 double crochet into that very first stitch. And then 1 double crochet into the next. 2 double crochet into the next stitch. And 1 double crochet into the next, and repeat that around. At the end of the round, slip stitch to the first double crochet. Then tie off your work, leaving a long tail so that you can sew it on later. And pull that yarn all the way through. You will need to make 2 of these. Now we're going to make Mr. Frankenstein's pupils. So with your black yarn and 1 strand, we're going to create a magic circle and chain 1. Place 8 single crochet into this magic circle. And again, if you don't know how to create a magic circle, chain 2 and place 8 single crochet into the second chain from your hook. Pull tight to close and slip stitch to the first single crochet of the round. Chain 1 and place 2 single crochet into that very first stitch. And then 1 single crochet into the next. Place 2 single crochet into the next stitch. And 1 single crochet into the next. And repeat that pattern around. Now slip stitch to the very first single crochet of the round and cut a long tail for sewing. Yarn over and pull that strand all the way through. And you should make 2 pupils. And now for Mr. Frankenstein's mouth, we're just going to create a chain of 35. So first create a slip knot, and as you can see, we're using black yarn and just chain 35. All right, so we don't have to leave a long tail this time. Now pull tight to secure. And I will show you later how we're going to turn this into his mouth. Now we'll work on Mr. Frankenstein's tooth. So you will take your white yarn, create a slip knot, and chain 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now single crochet into the second chain from your hook and into the next 3 chains. Then for rows 2 through 5, we're going to chain 1 and single crochet into each stitch across. Once you've reached the last row, cut your yarn, leaving a long tail so that you can sew it on later. Yarn over and pull that strand all the way through. And last but not least, we have to create the bolts for the side of Mr. Frankenstein's head. So with gray yarn, we're going to create a magic circle and chain 2. Now place 8 double crochet into the magic ring. And again, if you don't know how to create a magic circle, chain 3 and place 8 double crochet into that very first chain. Slip stitch to the very first double crochet of the round and chain 2. For round 2, we're just going to place 2 double crochet in each stitch around. Slip stitch to the first double crochet of the round and you're finished. Now leave a long tail for sewing, yarn over, and pull that strand all the way through. And you should make 2 of these bolts. Now for the Frankenstein bag, I first attached the white eyes right below the 4th row from the top. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, And so like 4.5 from the top. And then I sewed the black pupils right on top of those eyes. Now remember that chain that we made? This is going to be the mouth. The mouth is going to be sewn on 4 rows from the bottom of the eyes. And I'm going to weave it in every 3 stitches. So again, we're going over 3 stitches and then under 1 stitch. So over 3 stitches, under 1 stitch. Over 3 stitches, under 1 stitch. All along this row. Go a little bit further over here. All right, so now I'm going to insert the mouth on the inside. That way it looks like this. And then I'm going to tie that on the inside so that it stays. So this is what your mouth should look like. And then we're going to grab our tooth. And I like to make him a little bit goofy. So I put his tooth over here, but you can also put it under here. You can put it in the middle. You can put it on the side. It's really up to you. Okay, so I'm going to put my tooth on this side. And we're just going to sew it just like we've been doing all of our other facial features. Now the last thing for the Frankenstein bag is the bolts on the side. So I laid my bag flat and made sure that I put these bolts right on the side of the bag. So I sewed them on 2 rows below the last black row. And that's it for the facial features for Mr. Frankenstein. Now before we move on to the facial features, the witch bag is the only one that has an extra step for the main bag here. So that's what we're going to cover really quick. We started with green and worked all the way to row 15. Then for rows 16 and 17 we used black, 18 we used orange, and rounds 19 through 21 we switched back to black. So right now I'm going to show you how to create the brim of the hat for the witch. We're going to be working on the 5th row down from the top. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what we're going to do is turn our bag around, grab your hook, and insert it around the post of one of the double crochets. And I just lightened it up on the camera, so hopefully that helps. So you're still going to take your double strands, put both strands onto your hook like this, and pull it through that post. Now chain 2. And we're going to front post double crochet around each stitch in this round. If you've ever made a front post double crochet before, it's going to be the same way. It just looks a little bit backwards. So you're going to yarn over and insert your hook around the post of the stitch that you're already in. Then yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So yarn over and insert your hook around the next double crochet post and double crochet. And then you're just going to continue doing this around each post in this round. Hopefully you can at least see a little bit of what I'm doing. And whenever I'm done with this round, I will go back and show you what it should look like. So if you can't see what I'm doing right now, I'll be able to show you better once it's all finished. It also might be a little bit easier for you to do this if you bend the top part of the bag in. That way you can only see the round that you're working on. So once you come to the end, make sure that you place your front post double crochet around that last post, and then you will slip stitch to the first double crochet that you made. And now I'm going to pull up a loop here just so I can show you exactly what this should look like. So let me brighten this up a bit more. So this is what our hat looks like. We flipped our hat upside down so that we could work around the post of the double crochets below this row. So here is what our brim looks like. You can see that it's lifted up a little bit to create that hat shape. Now for rounds 2 and 3, we're just going to double crochet in each stitch around, just to make the brim a little bit longer so it looks like that classic witch hat. So this time around, we're just crocheting at the top of each double crochet. Now once you hit the end of round 3, you're going to slip stitch to the double crochet from the beginning of the round, and then chain 2, and this is going to be our last row for the brim. Now place 2 double crochet into the very first stitch, and then 3 double crochet into the next. 3 double crochet all in one stitch. 2 double crochet into the next stitch, and 3 double crochet into the next. And we're creating this pattern because it's going to create a wavy brim for the witch hat. So just continue that pattern around. 2 double crochet in the next stitch, 3 double crochet in the next, and so on. I love how this wavy texture gives our witch so much more character. Now slip stitch to the very first double crochet, tie off your yarn, and weave in your ends. Now for the facial features of the witch bag, I'm going to use a 5mm hook. You don't have to do this, I just decided to because I wanted my stitches to be a little bit tighter. You can either use a 5mm hook or you can use a 5.5mm hook. It won't make too much of a difference. To get started with the eye, we're going to create a slip knot and chain 5. Single crochet into the second chain from your hook, and then single crochet into each of the next 2 chains. Place 3 single crochet into that last chain. Turn your work to look at the opposite side of the foundation chain and place 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 chains. Now 2 single crochet into that last chain. Now moving on to round 2, we're not slip stitching, we're just going straight into that first stitch. Place 2 single crochet into the next stitch. And then 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. 2 single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. One single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. And then 2 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. Now slip stitch to that first stitch, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull through the loop on your hook. Go ahead and tie off, leaving a long tail so that you can sew your eye on later. And this is what your eye should look like. It's just a little oval. You should make 2 of these eyes. Now we're going to work on the nose for the witch. Again, I decided to use a 5mm hook for this. For the nose, you might want to use a 5mm hook, but again, if you don't have one, you can use your 5.5mm hook, but your nose might turn out a little bit bigger. First, we're going to create a slip knot, and we're going to leave a long tail to start because that's what we're going to use to sew it to our bag. So starting with a long tail, create your slip knot and chain 8. Now we're going to slip stitch to the very first chain. So insert your hook into that first chain, yarn over, pull that loop through, and then pull it through the loop on your hook. Chain 1, and then single crochet into each chain around, being careful not to twist. You should have 8 stitches at the end of this round. Now we're just going to be working in continuous rounds, no slip stitching. So for round 2, we're going to single crochet in each stitch around. At the end of round 2, I'm going to go ahead and turn my nose inside out, and this will make it a whole lot easier for you to continue crocheting. This nose is a little bit tricky and might take you a couple tries to get the hang of it. Now that my nose is flipped inside out, we're going to work on round 3. So we're going to single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, and then place 2 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. And then single crochet 1 time into each of the next 3 stitches. And that's the end of round 3. For round 4, we're going to single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. And then 2 single crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. One, 2, 3, and 4. Now single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. For round 5, single crochet into the next 3 stitches. Then single crochet 2 together 4 times. So to single crochet 2 together, we'll insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. And that's a single crochet 2 together. So we're going to do that 3 more times. Insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Now repeat that 2 more times. Single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. And that's the end of round 5. For round 6, single crochet into the next 3 stitches. And then single crochet 2 together 2 times. So here's our first single crochet 2 together. And then our second single crochet 2 together. Now single crochet into the next 3 stitches. And that's the end of round 6. For round 7, we're going to single crochet into the next 3 stitches. Single crochet 2 together 1 time. And then single crochet into the next 3 stitches. And that's the end of round 7. For round 8, we're going to single crochet in each stitch around, and at this point you should have 7 stitches in each round. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So that's it for round 8, and we're just going to repeat the same thing for round 9. Single crochet into each stitch around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that's it for round 9. Now for round 10, we're going to single crochet into the next stitch, and then single crochet 2 together 3 times. So 1, 2, and 3. And that's it for your nose. Go ahead and tie off your work and leave a longer tail so that you can sew the tip of your nose shut. And this is how your nose should look. Also, if you don't have any polyfill, you can use scrap pieces of yarn. So I have some of these from when I was weaving in my ends. So I can just stuff them in here, use the back of my hook to push it all in. And that makes your nose a little bit fluffier. And just keep doing that until you're happy with how fluffy it is. Now the next feature is probably my favorite part about the witch, these little hair ringlets. So to make these, we're going to take our 5mm hook and our orange yarn and chain 37. Now looking at your chain, place 3 half double crochet into the 3rd chain from your hook. So here we have 1, 2, 3. So yarn over, insert your hook into that 3rd chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, and you'll have 3 loops. Yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Now put 2 more half double crochet into that very same chain. So 3 half double crochet in 1 chain. Now we're going to repeat that 3 half double crochet in every single chain down the row. It's going to take you some time, but the end result is totally worth it. And as you can see, it's already starting to curl. How fun is that? Once you've finished your last stitch, your curl should look like this. Now grab your scissors and cut your yarn, leaving a long tail to sew. Yarn over and pull that strand all the way through. And there's your little curly cue. And you will need to make 4 of these hair curls. First we have the hair curls. So I made 4 of these and I just put them right underneath the hat on the black round that you can see showing. So just fold up the hat and tie it on, putting 2 curls on each side. For the eyes, I sewed on each eye on the 3rd green round from the top. And then I also decided to put a couple eyelashes on right here. So I'll show you really quick how to do that. I went through the back of the eye. The top lash is going to be the longest. I went 1 stitch up from the top and 2 to the left. And then I'm going to go back to the other part of the eye, right here. And then do the same thing. Except this one I'm going to make a little bit shorter. And try to go in between the stitch and not between the posts because then it won't stay. And so there you have your eyelashes. And for the nose, I placed the nose in between both of the eyes underneath the 5th round. Now let's talk about how to make the mouth. If you can, pull up the photo of the bag for reference. Or you can go ahead and take a screenshot. This is the photo that I have on my website. Now it doesn't have to look like this exactly, but I wanted to make it a little more of a wavy smile. So just try your best to do that. So based on the photo, I started about right here. So the row right underneath the nose. And I'm probably not going to follow the exact smile, but I'm just going to try and make it a wave. So to do that, I inserted my hook over here and then back through. And now I'm going to find my next space, which is going to be over here, if you can see my needle. And then I'm going to pull it up. And then I'll connect it back to where that last black strand was. And this is a good way to create more of a squiggly line. So I'm going to go a couple stitches over and do the same thing. And then connect it back. Now I'm going to go a couple rows down. And it's hard to see from the side how it's looking, so you can turn it around and see if you like the way it's going. So I think I want it to come back down and maybe up a little bit. And there we have our little creepy smile. And I'm going to put little indentations on the side of her mouth. And I don't like the way that that looked, so I'm just pulling it out like that. So it's super simple to fix any mistakes. If you don't like it, you just pull it out and try again. And now we're all finished with our witch. And again, you can make your smile however you want. You could just make her have a regular smile or an even goofier smile. It's really just however you like. And that is it for today's tutorial. As I've said a million times now, I am so excited. Whenever you're finished with your bag, be sure to tag me on social media at Sigoni Macaroni, or you can post your photos inside the Facebook group, or you can share your projects over on Ravelry. I can't wait to see them. I've also put together a discounted printable PDF for all 4 of these Halloween bags, and you can find that link in the description. I think that's about it for today's tutorial. I will see you in the next one.